Hello and welcome to Taking Liberties, episode 17, post-election edition. So we have joining us, well, we've actually got two LDP people joining us today.
To make up for my liberal hackery.
Yeah. So we've got John over in Queensland, who's just doing like a hand sign, not realizing we have some audio-only listeners as well.
Oh, yes. Hello, all.
And Connor over in WA.
G'day everyone.
Yeah.
Westralia, Bestralia, secession now.
Yeah.
And Lee, of course, is also joining us from West Australia.
Of course.
Yeah, but Lee didn't run, so that's the only
No.
difference. Yeah.
Yes. A non-candidate.
I thought it was going to be called Westeros.
I'm cool for the notion of secession, except for the fact that Colin Barnett is our current premier, which would make him prime minister, and we don't really need that kind of bad juju in this world.
Could just secede everything except...
I was going to say...
Everything but Cottesloe. Just leave Cottesloe, and then just the rest of it.
and this is coming from like a liberal hack.
Yeah.
Wait, because have you stopped saying that they're not the Liberal Party? I thought you had a whole rant about
I
we are the Liberal Party
did.
and they are the Nationals.
Yeah, I keep reverting back to this because everybody gets confused and goes like, but you're talking about the Liberal Party. You're talking about the Liberal Party. I'm trying hard, but it's hard when I'm the only one doing it. So yeah, you're right. I should go back to referring to them as the Nationals.
So you refer to the Nationals as the National Socialists?
Agrarian Socialists.
Agrarian
That's
socialists.
what they like to be called. I believe in giving them the appropriate title. But anyway...
You could use that as a segue and ask, Lee, what chance do the WA Nats have of getting the last Senate?
I actually don't know. Probably... Yeah, I have no idea. Probably not that high. Seems One Nation is going to get it, from what I understand.
I'm actually really going to look forward to these Senate counts. From my understanding, the LDP didn't do so well in New South Wales, but you did really well in Queensland.
Yeah, well, I don't know how you got that. We did the same in Queensland and New South Wales. So if one of them's good, they're both good. And if one of them's bad, they're both bad. They're both 2.6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the rest is all preferencing, of course.
And we've got better preferences in New South Wales, but we've got also a more difficult path in front of us in New South Wales because there's already two teams in front of us. One Nation and Christian Democrats.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But we get some preferences, so that puts us very much in the race for those last two spots in New South Wales. And in Queensland, where currently, if there were no preferences, we'd be in. Gabe would be in, Gabe Buckley. But of course, there are going to be preferences, and we don't do well out of those, which puts a big question mark over Gabe. So there's... Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
I
For the benefit of those who are not like totally in sync with LDP politics, do you want to tell us a bit about who Gabe is? So he's the top Senate candidate. I think what's cool about this whole thing is you might trade David for Gabe, and you've got two very different personalities there, like two very different styles of libertarianism. So do you just want to
We
be?
discussed that last time, didn't we?
I don't know if we did. I don't think we did.
No, we
Didn't?
didn't.
I must have discussed that elsewhere. Yeah, so Gabe Buckley is currently the national president. He's the fourth president of the Liberal Democrats and has been for several years. But he comes from what I guess you could broadly call the cultural left. He's more into drug legalization. He condemns Invasion Day instead of celebrating Australia Day. So he speaks a different language to David. You can imagine David and Gabe both standing on the stage. I hope they're both elected because that will really confuse the Fairfax ABC media. And one of
It
them
will really cement us as the troll party. Just
Yeah.
Well, one of them, the media wants to, left-wing media especially, wants to put David in a right-wing box. Hey, Joe. and they will want to put Gabe into a left-wing box. And they will get really confused why they're both representing the same party, especially as Gabe and David already know each other quite well.
Yeah.
So they're going to stand together and say, no, we agree with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Fairfax minds will explode.
Always a good thing. Always a good thing.
Yeah.
But,
No, but the other thing is just his sense of humor is way different. So David is referred to constantly as Mr. Grumpy, and Gabe is the opposite of that, right? He's a very approachable, very fun guy. I mean,
If the chaser make a van up and make crude jokes about him, he'll get in the van and laugh with them, as opposed to telling him to...
He'd probably like whip out some dope and go like, "Hey guys, you want to join in on this?"
Yeah.
So I'm just, I'm just like, it's a completely. So, you know, where people describe David as grumpy, people would describe Gabe as the fun-loving, the guy who's out there, the rocker.
Well, Fairfax referred to him today in the Brisbane Times as the cowboy rocker.
Yeah,
because
which he is.
Frontman for the Whiskey Protocol, which is a sort of folk rock band up here.
Yeah, but the funny thing is he doesn't drink, right? So.
Cool.
But anyway,
Makes up for it.
they both have a very real but very uncertain chance at the moment. So I don't know which one's even more likely, but could be in the running.
Yeah. No, they'd be very. So both of them would be on 3-year terms, though. That's the downside.
Probably. We don't.
Oh, sorry, go finish.
We don't actually know how they'll allocate the 6-year and 3-year terms yet, because it's actually up to the Senate, and they can do anything they want. By convention, the people who get elected first get 6 years, and that's what people are assuming will happen, which is the best assumption. But we don't actually know.
So what you're telling us is theoretically we might have Pauline Hanson for 6 years, but her two cronies for only 3. So that's a bonus.
What? No, well, Pauline Hanson was elected on more than a quota, so she may actually be 6 anyway.
Okay.
But if we had a half-Senate election, she would have won anyway. So next election, she'll probably defend her seat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she'd probably put one of her cronies up if she's got it for 6 years.
Well, we don't know, because she might not have been one of the first 6 elected still. So we'll see.
Yeah. No.
Staying on the ODP, well, how'd you go elsewhere, sort of Australia-wide?
The next best option was Victoria, which is still a statistical possibility. It's quite unlikely, though, because we haven't got preferences there and we're not currently in front. But parties who only did slightly better than us are the ones that are expected to be in the mix. So it's theoretically possible. We got Massacred in the others. Tassie and South Australia, I think, was like 0.5%.
Yeah, but that's like saying, we got slaughtered by the 2 most left-leaning states. So.
And we're not in the running in WA. I think Connor can tell us about that.
Senate candidate
Western
number 2.
Australia, it would, in WA, it would have to be an absolute miracle of preferencing to put Graham Class in. Very unfortunate. We, as far as things go, I think the pre-polling betting was 50% odds, like at that sort of high. But of course, this could just be a case of hitting that other 50%, in which case we don't get in. Yeah, at this point, it'd have to be a miracle of preferencing to get one of us in here in WA.
Could it be said that if Graham doesn't get in, we can blame you because when I saw your ballot, you put yourself first above Graham?
Yeah,
so you could actually be the margin, the margin of victory.
Yeah,
shame, Connor. Shame.
No, we all know that every vote is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Every individual vote is irrelevant. So it looks like Pauline could be on 3 or more at the moment, I think.
Well, yeah, so Anthony Green's projections were that she's going to get one, possibly 2 in Queensland, and 1 in New South Wales and 1 in WA. So I'm sitting there going, so that's 3 with a potential of 4.
She's got a potential in Tasmania as well, and a potential in Victoria.
Oh, really? Jeez,
Jeez.
6?
Well,
Fuck.
5. 3 plus 2 is 5.
Okay, I'm just going to say this could be absolutely hilarious.
It's a good thing that Vikas is like an aeronautical engineer or something.
Although there is some people talking about a chance of her getting 2 in Queensland, which would take it up to 6. But I think
that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's a pipe dream. I mean, she's like 1% over. And
The weird thing about Pauline Hanson, I was just thinking we should probably explain who she is, because there's probably people who are young enough who might listen to this show or watch this show who don't actually remember the time when she was in Parliament, because she was only in Parliament for 3 years or something. Yeah, so for the benefit of those who don't know who Pauline Hanson is, essentially she was elected back in, I think, 96 in a lower house seat in Queensland as an independent. I think she's kind of got a liberal background.
Not quite. She was endorsed as the Liberal candidate. She was disendorsed after it was too late to take Liberals off the ballot.
Right,
so she was on the ballot as a Liberal, but the Liberals said they don't want her.
Yep.
She got disendorsed quite publicly for something she said about Aboriginals, and in an election...
John Howard himself, I think.
Yeah, and she ended up getting a larger swing towards her than most of the Liberals did, and got elected into the seat of Oxley, which is like a bogan suburbs off in the west of Brisbane.
Yep.
Yeah.
towards Ipswich.
Yep, pretty much. And she runs a fish and chip. She used to run a fish and chip shop in Ipswich.
Yeah.
And yeah, are you sure it was the Aboriginals comment? I thought it was something about Asians.
No, that was her maiden speech.
Yeah,
Once she
maiden
got elected.
speech.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The thing that blew her up in the media and got everyone talking was that famous comment: "We're in danger of being swamped by Asians. They don't
Yep.
assimilate; they form ghettos."
Yeah.
That's the famous line.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I went back and looked at her maiden speech because I was just curious to see what she said, because I remembered it being a big deal, and yeah, that's basically. I mean, there's heaps of other stuff she says. It's just kind of standard kind of nationalist stuff, but yeah, like that was
basically Australia's grandma. Effectively, she's that racist grandma that everybody has, and you kind of just roll your eyes and go, "Okay, grandma," and you kind of just like sit there and you're.
Hey, she's the racist grandma that currently runs the fourth biggest party in the country and potentially balance of power shared.
yeah.
So, it's a
Okay.
powerful grandma.
That's
Question:
a very
would
powerful
you
grandma.
rather the Greens or would you rather One Nation as the balance of power?
Well, so this is the interesting thing.
Left-wing socialism or right-wing socialism?
Yeah, so my favorite thing has been like comparing the policies between the Greens and One Nation, and the reality is, if you take away all the anti-Islam stuff, they're actually the same policies. Like she wants to lock up, like her big thing is she wants to lock up the Great Barrier Reef and like all this other like environmental conservation stuff, and where she comes into disagreement is effectively how to treat Islam.
Yep. And also a little bit, because I did the same thing for my very own YouTube channel, which I did a video on this exact topic.
Actually, I'm not going to lie. This is the source of my information.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. There you go. I am being quoted by Vikas. There you go. I've made it. So I had a look, and I mean, there's some stuff about welfare. So basically, they want to expand welfare, but not quite in the same way as the Greens. So like, there's kind of like an emphasis thing. So single mothers are going to get a worse deal under One Nation, where single mothers might do better under the Greens. But yeah, aside from that kind of stuff, it's
And it's
very
worth
similar.
remembering that the Greens have historically been anti-immigration.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah. So
They're pro-refugee, but they're anti-skilled immigration, so they still don't want people in the country.
yeah. Which actually blew the minds of my Greens voting friends when I actually pointed that out, because I don't think they
something
realised
today.
that. Sorry, Connor?
No, I just learned something today.
Yeah. I mean, if you like, they're essentially protectionists, which is
Yeah,
not
'cause
surprising, but
one of the things that most people don't realize about the Greens is it's actually there on their policy page. They want to reduce the skilled migration intake, and they said that 200 and I think the figure on there is old, but they said 220,000 is too high, and they also wanted to impose a restriction on the 457 visa system.
yeah.
They said I think they said they wanted like companies to prove that no local could be hired before a 457 could be hired, which is more extreme than what Labor's pushing. Labor wants more scrutiny over the program, but they don't want to put it in the hands of the ministers yet.
And I think this is why, from what I understand, a lot of left-wing unions are actually starting to switch their support more towards the Greens and away from Labor, just because, the Greens are more openly anti-immigration, which is essentially what the unions are all about. So, which again, most lefties don't seem to realise that that's basically what unions exist to do, is to restrict worker entry into Australia, one of which is through one channel of which is through immigration. So, I mean, maybe you should ask more broadly, is there any good news for libertarians, aside from potentially Gabe Buckley and maybe David, God willing, both being in the Senate? Is there any good news in any regards to this election? I mean, we haven't really talked about the Parliament thing, I guess.
There is, what's his name? Tim Wilson of...
Liberals? Goldstein?
yeah.
Goldstone, yeah. Look, here's the thing. As much as and James Patterson's in as well. Actually, no, James Patterson's potentially in. But, like, I'm always skeptical when... And I know Tim's a good friend of mine, as is James. I love it when they get elected, but at the same time, like, there's this thing in the back of my head where I know they're going to do extremely illiberal things to try and climb up that ladder. And I know that they're saying at some point down the line they will have a net gain in liberty because they'll do something amazing that cancels for all of that stuff that they've done in the past. And I see John smirking there because, I mean, if we do this on the balance of probabilities, I don't think it's ever worked out that someone has been a net gain for liberty inside the Liberal Party. I'd love for someone to show me that calculation, but I don't think it exists. So I'm always a bit on the, I like the guy, but I know he's gonna be, for better or worse, basically more of a nationalist. More of a national than a Liberal.
Look, I think you're probably right, Vikas, and it's always a shame when a good commentator goes into Parliament and people think, yes, we've got a good libertarian commentator in Parliament. Perhaps we should be thinking, oh, damn, we've just lost a good libertarian commentator.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with you, but it is too late now. James and Tim have decided to go into major party politics.
Yeah.
They've only just started. So for the moment, I just want to wish them good luck and hope that they are dedicated to having a backbench career.
Yep.
Because if they're dedicated to being a backbencher, they could say a lot of really good stuff. They could cause a lot of mayhem, like Peter Phelps.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not give up just yet. It might be unlikely that we get a good outcome, but let's just be hopeful for at least a year.
I mean, I'll go back to the argument that I think I've made like a billion times before, which is a rising tide lifts all boats. Like, if you have a upswing in liberal thinking in the population, you want libertarians both in minor parties and in major parties, because then they can, make advantage of that. So if all of a sudden it becomes cool to smoke weed and drug legalization becomes a possibility, then you want minor parties in the balance of power, and you want libertarians in the libertarians in the minor parties in the balance of power, and libertarians in the major parties, because then they're going, well, hey, there's this thing that's going to get us votes if we go for it. So
mainstream support.
Yeah, so I mean, that's like James and Tim are good if libertarian type things come up and there's a potential that it's a vote winner for the major parties. That's when you want them there, but they don't change the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, let's just wish them good luck. So,
Yeah.
But Lee, I think you would agree, and I think thinking liberals, all four of them, or however many there are, would agree that it is fundamentally good for liberal or pro-market people within the Liberals to have a minor party that is also pro-market.
You obviously have never watched this show because
their budget, a party that would actually pass their spending cuts, etc., etc. How can we convince the Liberals of this? They keep preferencing the Christians and shooters and everyone else. If Gabe doesn't get up in Queensland, it could well be because of the Liberals.
Yep.
If David doesn't get up in New South Wales, it's
definitely because of the Liberals, because of the CDP preferencing.
Yes,
so how do we convince the Liberals of this?
I don't know. When I do it, I'll let you know, and then you can do it too. Like, I mean, this is essentially when I go and meet with my Liberal mates, I say, we did this crazy thing. We alienate ourselves from the only party that can reliably be expected to support, like, genuinely, liberal economic policies. Like, that's they're the only party. Like,
okay,
Bob Day...
I'm about to step in and go to bat for the Liberals, so everybody take note, because this is probably not going to happen ever again.
Are we going to see... do I need to watch out for, like, hellfire raining outside as the world ends?
Yeah, look, to be fair, it goes both ways, though. I mean, the LDP's preferencing of the Liberals wasn't all that crash hot in New South Wales either. Similar.
What do you mean in New South Wales?
I don't believe there was I can't remember what the preferencing order was, but I think the preferencing to the Liberals was either not on the paper or no, that's right, you guys preference Labor, and Clinton said, well, we said we'd preference Labor if they went ahead with the Senate voting changes.
Yeah, we discussed this last time. The preferences went to minor parties, then they went to Liberal and Labor half the time each, pretty much.
Yep.
Actually slightly more to the Liberals than Labor, but to Labor slightly more in marginal seats. But on balance, you'd basically call that 50-50. And given that the Liberals left us stranded and did nothing for us, I don't think that's that harsh. Liberals didn't come to us 50% of the time.
No. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of anger and resentment between parties, and it's over a lot of petty things like this. The reality is, and what I'm hoping is, it's basically the New South Wales Liberal branch, which A, are always hopeless, and B, which are unnecessarily starting shit which shouldn't be occurring. There shouldn't be a fight between the LDP and the Liberals, because like Lee said, the best chance the Liberals have for ever passing their budgets is a strong LDP contingent in the Senate. And it's not just from the perspective of it's not just the perspective from their ability to pass the budget through. From their own party side, right, they want to mitigate the influence of particularly the Nats, the agrarian socialists, right? And
it's more than...
And so I guess there's two things that come to mind. Firstly, I think the CDP preferences are almost directly from them to the Liberals, so their preferencing arrangements, I think, are super close. The other thing is, I think one of the issues is always going to... second issue, the LDP has only really just become a force kind of more publicly since David got elected. Like, I think most people wouldn't even... Like, most liberal, average liberal members of the party probably wouldn't even known who the LDP was until David got elected. And now it's a thing. So it could be a thing that over time... a sort of more easy relationships will form. And thirdly, I think there's probably a greater similarity between the kind of median Liberal member of the party and the median sort of CDP member. Like, I think sort of culturally they're very similar, where I think Libertarians tend to be... I think the whole drugs thing and tends to put kind of conservative voters off a little bit, and I think that's a harder bridge to gap than say, like, I mean, really, the Christian Democrats, like, really hate Islam, they really hate prostitution and, abortion, and that's not really going to put off kind of your average conservative voter.
Yeah, that's all true. Although, to be perfectly honest, from what I've seen from a lot of my more conservative liberal friends, they don't particularly like the CDP. They prefer the ALA to the CDP, which... which confuses the fuck out of me, because, like, the CDP is far more conservative religiously than the ALA.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it could be one of those things that, like, once the Liberals really get a taste of their own medicine through the voting changes and the permanent Greens balance of power and all this kind of stuff, like, I think that might maybe you'd hope they'd kind of go, okay, this didn't work out so crash up for us. Maybe we need to sort of think about how we go about these, who we preference and all this kind of stuff. So maybe.
Well, actually,
common sense in politics is always a bit rare.
So
but
maybe once it's too late, they might learn the lesson.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's been part of the course for the Liberals for the last 6 years at least.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, the interesting thing that people haven't been talking about is the Greens getting wiped out.
No, they didn't get wiped out. They went from 10 to 9.
I thought they went from 10 to 8 because Xenophon took 2 seats, didn't they? So I know Sarah Hansen's out. And
really, Sarah Hansen-Young is gone?
No, we don't know that at all.
Oh, it'd be so good if she's gone.
That is. I was going to mention that. You asked what other successes there are. These aren't quite successes, but Bob Day is still in the running.
Yeah,
Bob Day versus Hanson-Young versus Labor's fourth, fighting for 2 spots. Most people think it'll be the Green plus Labor's fourth.
Okay.
So probably Hanson-Young back in. And the Sex Party's in the running in Victoria. Probably not, but in the running.
That'd be interesting, because, like, I mean, they're socially libertarian, so...
Well, she came out and said that she would support the income tax cuts. The Meredith Doig, whatever. Their lead Senate candidate in Victoria. I don't know how to say her surname.
Yeah.
But,
that'd be... Yeah, so notionally, if you like, that's very good. I mean, I'd take that over a Green any day.
Except it wouldn't be instead of a Green. It would be instead of a notionally right-wing senator, because there's already 4 Labor, 2 Green, and then 5 Liberal and 1 spare, which might go One Nation. Could possibly go to Duncan Spender, Liberal Democrats, but probably not. Could go to Shooters or could go to Sex. And if Sex get it, that's nominally the left getting a 7, which is over the half. 6 out of 12 would be half, and 7 means the Senate would be coloured left.
But fiscally, she's to the right of One Nation.
Yeah, look, they're better than One Nation
that's not hard.
from our perspective, but I'm just saying the way people see left and right, Sex is considered. It would be considered a left-wing party taking a right-wing spot.
Yep.
Sure, but like I don't know. Like, the things I care about and the things that upset me, I'd say that she's probably more preferable to One Nation for me.
No, well, yes and no. I think she is, but from the perspective of the Liberal Democrats, what we would want to happen, and I know...
Is Duncan Spender.
When I say... No, okay, yeah, sure, but that's not the important thing, because that's not likely. When I say we, I mean Connor and I in the party, not you two communists, but... what we need is...
He's being polite, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Xenophon's going to get 3, or maybe even more. Pauline's going to get 3, maybe more. If we could get 2, that would be great, but then we need no other minor parties in. Because when people talk about the Senate, we need to be in that conversation. And if there's like 1 Sex, 1 Shooter, 1 of all these little small parties, one family first...
Well, Jackie Lamby's already been confirmed already as well.
Yeah, all right, so we can't get rid of that. But the media, if there's lots of them, the media will refer to them all as independents. And
Yeah.
we need them to be referring to us as the Liberal Democrats.
Yep.
With a balance of power, with a block. So ideally, we need family first, sex, shooters, all of the rest not to get in, 2 Liberal Democrats to get in, and then people would talk about, 3 Xenophon, 3 Pauline, 2 Liberal Democrats. They're the minor parties that we should care about, which incidentally are the 4th, 5th, and 6th biggest parties in the country based on total Senate vote.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. Like, from your perspective. Like, but from my perspective, I'm sitting there and going, like, out of the potential field of what's happening, I would much rather this happen. And that's just based on my selfish position of, I would like a senator that passes tax cuts.
Yeah, well, that's not actually your selfish position. You just haven't thought it through yet, Vikas. So let me tell you what
You haven't come to the LDP way of thinking, Vikas.
Vikas, let me tell you what your opinion is, Vikas. Your opinion.
We joke about this, but I swear to God, every LDP volunteer that I've run into in the ACT and in New South Wales tries to do this. And I sit there and I go, like, you are handing out how to vote cards. You don't need to explain the philosophy of libertarianism because, 1, it's not going to convince someone as they walk in to vote.
Yeah.
And 2, you're wasting your time. You should be trying to hand out as many how to votes as possible. I don't know. I watched an LDP. So there was a bar waitress who basically at the LDP after party said, like, Liberal Democrats, what are they, right? And this guy started trying to explain libertarian philosophy, starting with the non-aggression principle.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm just cringing, going, and like, he's clearly lost her.
No, because as you're saying that, Connor's sitting there going, yeah, that's what I do. What's wrong with that? I was doing that in the bar last night. For some reason, she didn't give me a number.
I've got a girlfriend, thank you very much.
Okay, she probably doesn't watch this show either.
Yeah, and
I'm sure most people don't.
I'm sure.
Oh, well, that's just uncalled for. I didn't make fun of you. John did.
But no, it was. I found it particularly.
I agree. The point of handing out how to votes isn't to convert people, but it's also worth noting that the Lib Dems and the Liberty movement in general is small enough that we do want to try and find new people interested in these ideas.
Yeah, sure.
And also, our evidence is that handing out how to votes doesn't so far noticeably change the outcome for the Liberal Democrats. Now, that might change, but the evidence we've got so far, it's not statistically significant.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't matter and you have a chance to talk to someone who's interested in ideas, then that could be one long-term serious volunteer convert for the future.
Yeah.
Although I would suggest you need them to be not you go to them.
And at this point, it is statistically significant. I mean, in the WA branch, we've got all of a dozen regular-ish people, of which 5 turn up actually regularly. So to have an extra convert is a 8% increase. It's
and
in terms of an actual person to turn up and do things. At this stage of the game, an extra person here and there.
Well, the thing is, if you want to man booths, all you need to do is hire models. Don't you realise that, Connor?
Yeah, I thought that was a great strategy.
It's been an idea that's floated, and I will not confirm nor deny what we're going to be doing at the Shot Expo.
Hello. Look, whatever works at the end of the day to get the message across. I think explaining libertarianism from its core principles at a bar to random people probably isn't the best way to go about things. Yeah.
It might be, may have called you all a bunch of spurgs just previously, but no, that's no, it's a very astute observation. We're not going to be able to convert people in the line to vote.
No.
But as things go, it's still, John, a really good idea in the long term. Just for liberty movement in general in Australia, it's an extra person here or there who actually turns up and do stuff on a fairly regular basis is a big thing.
The more important point from what Vikas was saying to my ear isn't don't speak to someone on election day.
Try to gauge.
Don't start with the NAP. Right? So, I don't even particularly like the NAP.
I start with Rothbard.
Yeah, but don't start with Rothbard either. And don't start with Rand either. Start with the
And so-
idea that freedom actually can work. It can make your life better.
Yeah. Actually, that simple step. Elevator pitches. Everybody needs to learn them. Like in the Liberty movement, effectively. I don't have one, but then again, I'm not trying to spread liberty. So,
Yes, you are. You're running Australia's best libertarian podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
oh,
Numero
thanks.
uno.
Yeah.
It's also the worst one.
Well, there's only one.
Been
place-
here every week for the last year. Can confirm is the worst.
So, fellas, should we talk about the actual lower house results?
Yeah, we should.
In the 2 minutes we have remaining to us.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, there's nothing
Who's going
really
to form
much.
government?
Good question. I actually think the Libs will skin in.
You reckon? I actually think Labor would probably be more likely to do it, just because, from what I understand, the Libs will struggle to find a speaker, because they'll have such a slim margin. They're going to have to turn to Andrew Wilkie. He's about the only person they could turn to, and I don't know if that's a deal they're going to want to do. Like, I don't know if that's the devil they want to do a deal with. So I think Labor's got a better chance of forming government because they're more likely to be able to cobble together the votes on the crossbench.
The speaker issue is irrelevant because once you have a majority, by definition, you have a two-person majority, right? 76 to 74.
Yep.
So once you have a majority, you have two, and then one of them goes to speaker, you still have one majority of one.
Yeah, fair.
But
Okay.
getting to 76 is going to be hard. I think my guess at the moment is a Turnbull government with supply offered by Qatar and Xenophon, potentially Xenophon's 2, because Xenophon's still in the running to get grey
Yeah.
in South Australia.
Yeah, which is why. So that was my call. I was just like, they're going to get to about 73. 73, and it'll be to 2 Xenophons plus Qatar. That's 76, and it'll be 74 on Labor with what's the name of McGowan and Wilkie.
Well, then
Banned.
there has to be 72.
Yeah,
But
72.
it'd actually be 71 because there's 2 independents in the Green that will go Labor.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So yes, you're right. 71 plus those guys. So yeah, that's what I was thinking was going to happen. But I think the Xenophon one. So Grey is either going to go Xenophon or Liberal, isn't it? Yeah. So in which case it won't really matter. I mean, that's
Well, except that Xenophon could switch. The 2 Xenophon people could easily switch to Labor. I think that
that's it.
Xenophon himself will step in and say, because Turnbull is currently the Prime Minister, I give him the first chance.
yeah.
So I think there's quite a good chance there could be a hung Parliament Turnbull with Xenophon support lasting for 6 months until Turnbull does something that Xenophon hates and he switches his support to Shorten, and then that would actually change Prime Minister.
As long as it doesn't trigger another election.
It won't.
Oh, it could.
It could. But isn't there a condition for how long there has to be between elections?
That's only for a half Senate election. So they could go to a House-only election, or they could go another DD.
Yeah, right. Fun
I would love
times.
I would love another double dissolution.
Well,
As long as there's not another 8 weeks. No more 8-week campaigns.
the Lib Dems are going to... Lib Dems won't have enough money to run the next election.
Yeah, well, hardly anybody will. I reckon every party would struggle to actually get the cash together.
Well, the other one's got over 4%, so they're going to get taxpayers' money,
yeah, true.
whereas
Yeah,
we didn't.
Yeah.
That's one of the downsides of this election for us.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, that's 30 minutes, so I am going to have to call it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And that's
Yeah.
so-
Do you want to
and
do it
that's-
out? You want to say anything else before I end the video, or are you just going to say that?
I'm going to say that Dimitri seems to be very eager to appear on the show. Dimitri is the cat that John's holding.
What would be the Liberal Democrats without cats, really?
Liberal Democrats.
Democrats, yeah. Well, Dimitri is an cat, I believe, of some sorts. Anyway, yeah, that's episode 17, and we'll be back again next week, probably talking about something stupid that Pauline Hanson has said.
Isn't that everything?
Doesn't
she
narrow it
says?
down.
Yeah.
All right, fellas.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Anyway, thank you very much. Cheers.